Mark, it's not global warming, it's not climate change, it's now a climate crisis. How do you feel about that?
Well, what's interesting about this is the words climate crisis or climate emergency, they were left to the venue of the hardcore climate activists a decade or so ago. I mean, I remember Barbara Streisand actually called it a climate emergency. And we had a lot of fun. When I worked in the United States Senate was for Senator Inhofe, he would put up that and laugh that some Hollywood celebrity was calling global warming a climate emergency. Al Gore has referred to the climate crisis. But you were absolutely right, Ezra. These were the words of the activists, of the base, of the campaigners, not the words of the media. Now, the media, which went from global warming to climate change, and actually under President Obama, they tried to, his science czar, John Holdren, called it global climate disruption. But they have now succeeded in getting the organs of the state, the mainstream media, to follow suit, and this will have an impact. Imagine now, you're not a climate denier, you are a climate emergency denier. You're a climate crisis denier. It's incredible. It's incredible, and it's powerful, especially on young people. This will resonate. If their parents don't tell them any different about the news, and they think that that the mainstream media is actual news and not activism, this will have an impact on these poor kids.
Yeah, I mean, to call something a crisis or a breakdown or an emergency, I mean, there are some legal definitions of an emergency. For example, under some state of emergency legislation, if a governor or a president, and we have similar laws in Canada, declares a state of emergency, it's a technical meaning that allows them to circumvent certain rules or deploy certain firefighters or aid without going through the normal processes. So it has a technical meaning, and if it were to be abused, a court could rule them in and say, no, that's not an emergency, you're abusing those powers. So there is actually something that is legally called an emergency. But this seems to be absolute dictionary definition, boy who cries wolf. Saying something that is not an emergency is an emergency. It's as close to political fraud. I don't believe there's such a thing as political fraud, but it's downright propaganda. It's embarrassing to me that prominent media like Canada's state broadcaster are just so willing to let themselves be used as repeaters of political propaganda like that. I suppose I should say I'm not surprised anymore, but even this is surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised me even when the UK Guardian, it started a few years back. CNN refused to have on any climate skeptics. MSNBC did. And then the LA Times said no letters to the editors from anyone dissenting on global warming. We're not going to print it. NBC News has come out and done it. CBS News compared skeptics, their lead anchor, to Holocaust deniers. So in that vein, this is just the natural progression. In the U.S., a governor or a mayor can declare a state of emergency in the aftermath of a big tornado or a hurricane or a flood, a natural disaster. And that actually makes sense. A locally affected area, a state, a city, a county that's massively affected, houses destroyed, travel, disruption, electricity, that is a state of emergency. You can understand that. But they're now trying to say that the entire state of our climate is an emergency, and they're saying it for the express political reason of carbon taxes and UN treaties and other regulations. This is pure, absolute fraudulent propaganda. Now, there's propaganda and then there's fraudulent propaganda. This is fraudulent. I mean, this is from beginning to end. Not only is there no climate crisis, and certainly Canada wouldn't be under the impact. You guys could probably use a little warming, as many Canadians have told me over the year. It's incredible that it's gotten this far, but you also are telling us what's probably coming to the U.S. We're probably less than a year away from the New York Times and the Washington Post and the major CNN and everyone else following suit with this kind of language, because words mean things. Yeah. And this is meant to scare people and propagandize them.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest, and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.